What's up, cool people? I'm Matt Conroy. Welcome back to our Bible study. We've got Exodus chapter 26 for the moment. For those of you who aren't up to speed on what's going on here in Exodus, God's people, the Israelites, have left their slavery in Egypt, and they went through the wilderness a bit. They've made it to Mount Sinai, and God at Mount Sinai is basically telling Moses a bunch of rules, regulations, things for the people to follow moving forward regarding, what God wants from them, things he wants them to do and how to interact with each other, but also how they're to, basically worship him and, interact with him in the future as well. Him being God, I mean. So we're kind of in the midst of that, talking about building the tabernacle, which will become like the primary place of meeting for, basically the priests who want to go to God and, make sacrifices for the people or want to, worship God, hear from God, like any of the special ceremonial things will be linked to the tabernacle in the future. But anyway, so that kind of catches you up to speed on Exodus so far and where we are right now in chapter 26. So let's get this thing rolling here. So, starting with verse 1, obviously, because why would you start anywhere else in the chapter? Make the tabernacle from 10 curtains of finely woven linen. Decorate the curtains with blue, purple, and scarlet thread, and with skillfully embroidered cherubim. These 10 curtains must all be exactly the same size, 42 feet long and 6 feet wide. Join 5 of these curtains together to make one long curtain. Then join the other 5 into a second long curtain. Put loops of blue yarn along the edge of the last curtain in each set. The 50 loops along the edge of one curtain are to match the 50 loops along the edge of the other curtain. Then make 50 gold clasps and fasten the long curtains together with the clasps. In this way, the tabernacle will be made of one continuous piece. So, the tabernacle is, meant to be something that the people could use, like, even in the wilderness as a place of meeting and worship. And so, with that in mind, rather than being some sort of, solid, stone or whatever building, like you might think of as a temple or place of worship, this is more like a tent that's going to be made of, curtains, essentially. And if I'm understanding this right, it's basically going to be taking, 2 long curtains that'll go the entire length of it and just, like, fastening those together at each end. So the dimensions, by the way, in the Hebrew we'll say, it's measured in cubits rather than feet, but with this being the New Living Translation, which, kind of aims to be a bit more modern, maybe not specifically Americanized, but, a more modern understanding. I mean, the fact that it uses feet probably means that it's a bit Americanized as well. Or, I mean, unless feet were just a closer, more accurate estimation with whole units compared to cubits. I don't know. But anyway, so God's giving Moses the instructions for making the outside, basically the tent part of the tabernacle. We already got some instructions in the last chapter regarding the Ark of the Covenant and the table that's supposed to be within the tabernacle and the lampstand. So we've got some of the inner, tools, instruments, and different things that'll be within the tabernacle. But there's also, now getting into the outer part of it. Anyway. So, moving along to verse 7. Make 11 curtains of goat hair cloth to serve as a tent covering for the tabernacle. These 11 curtains must be exactly the same size, 45 feet long and 6 feet wide. Join 5 of these curtains together to make one long curtain, and join the other 6 into a second long curtain. Allow 3 feet of material from the second set of curtains to hang over the front of the sacred tent. Make 50 loops for one edge of each large curtain, then make 50 bronze clasps, and fasten the loops of the long curtains with the clasps. In this way, the tent covering will be made of one continuous piece. The remaining 3 feet of this tent covering will be left to hang over the back of the tabernacle. Allow 18 inches of remaining material to hang down over each side, so the tabernacle is completely covered. Complete the tent covering with a protective layer of tanned ram skins and a layer of fine goatskin leather. Okay, so we've got the thread that's like the kind of initial covering for the tabernacle, but then you have the probably more so what we would think of today as a tent covering, kind of almost more tarp-ish or something more akin to that goes over that initial covering of the tabernacle. That footnote's probably just more about the dimensions. Yeah, 30 cubits long and 4 cubits wide. Was that the same? That said 28 cubits long. Which, I mean, if it's going to go over top of the initial, covering, then yeah, I mean, this has to be bigger in order to protect the inner layer. 3 feet, that's probably more about the dimensions. The half sheet that is left over. Okay. There was another footnote I missed. He wrote double over the 6th sheet at the front. Okay. So, I'm guessing somewhere in here with some of this overlap might be, where the entry to the tabernacle would be. Although, yeah, because it mentions that extra material hanging over the front, which would make sense if that's where you want the entrance to be. Then you just kind of, pull back the extra material and duck under it on your way in, or something like that. Whereas the back end is actually fastened together. So, and then I guess over top of the cloth that is covering the initial, linen. So the first layer is linen, then you've got cloth covering that. But then there's also going to be ram skins and goat skin leather on top of that, which that might be kind of more akin to what we would think of for a tent covering, just in terms of general, texture and stuff like that. But anyway, I digress. So, we've now got 3 different layers for this tabernacle, this tent of meeting that, the Israelites are going to use in the future. Which I guess also maybe the different layers helped with kind of insulation and stuff. That might have been part of the idea as well. I'm not 100% sure on that. Okay, moving on to verse 15. For the framework of the tabernacle, construct frames of acacia wood. Each frame must be 15 feet high and 27 inches wide, with 2 pegs under each frame. Make all the frames identical. Make 20 of these frames to support the curtains on the south side of the tabernacle. Also make 40 silver bases, 2 bases under each frame, with pegs fitting securely into the bases. For the north side of the tabernacle, make another 20 frames, with their 40 silver bases, 2 bases under each frame. Make 6 frames for the rear, the west side of the tabernacle, along with 2 additional frames to reinforce the rear corners of the tabernacle. These corner frames will be matched at the bottom and firmly attached at the top with a single ring, forming a single corner unit. Make both of these corner units the same way. So there will be 8 frames at the rear of the tabernacle, set in 16 silver bases, 2 bases under each frame. Okay, so now we're getting into some of like the support structure for the tabernacle that'll, hold it up whenever they, camp at a particular place and need to actually set up the tent. Because, linen and cloth and ramskins will not stay up on their own. They need a support structure in order to operate that way. I do wonder a bit why, like, some of the support structure is... Okay, so I guess all the bases to hold it up are made with silver. All the bases and the poles or whatever that are supposed to hold it up are made of that. And I guess they attach to wood panels that would help keep it, which kind of makes sense. You wouldn't want the panels... I mean, the panels being made of metal would be, like, extra heavy, which... there's good and bad to that. But I guess in order to, give it support without going, like, totally overboard on the weight of it, the panels are going to be made of wood. Whereas the poles and the bases to sort of hold those panels in place are going to be made out of silver. I say going to be, thinking of the context of the situation. Moving on to verse 26, I'm going to try and not take too long getting through this in case I'm missing any chat comments. Anyway, okay, verse 26. Make crossbars of acacia wood to link the frames, 5 crossbars for the north side of the tabernacle, and 5 for the south side. Also make 5 crossbars for the rear of the tabernacle, which will face west. The middle crossbar, attached halfway up the frames, will run all the way from one end of the tabernacle to the other. Overlay the frames with gold, and make gold rings to hold the crossbars. Overlay the crossbars with gold as well. Okay, so now we've got kind of the support beams to go between the panels and the, support poles or whatever. And with them being what really support the weight of it all, or having a lot to do with the support structure, those are going to be overlaid with gold for extra stability, I guess. So you got the rear of the tabernacle facing west, which, I guess depending on where exactly they were, figuring they're somewhere kind of, northeast of Egypt. West would have faced toward Egypt, kind of away from where they were. So then, like, the opening, or what I assume would be the opening then, would be toward the east, away from all that. And north and south are just mentioned, I guess, because of some of the frames involved with the support structure. But anyway, moving on to verse 30, I guess. Set up this tabernacle according to the pattern you were shown on the mountain, which I assume would have been we're shown, like, this is kind of the first, although it says shown, so maybe God gave Moses some sort of image of it, like what it was supposed to look like. Or he's just kind of referring to some of the previous instructions as well. I don't know. Anyway. But I mean, like, duh. It doesn't seem like it would need to be repeated, but I guess, God's like, okay, here are the instructions. Make sure that you follow these. Okay? Otherwise, it's not going to work right. Anyway, verse 31. For the inside of the tabernacle, make a special curtain of finely woven linen. Decorate it with blue, purple, and scarlet thread, and with skillfully embroidered cherubim. Hang this curtain on gold hooks attached to the 4 posts of acacia wood. Overlay the posts with gold, and set them in 4 silver bases. Hang the inner curtain from clasps, and put the Ark of the Covenant in the room behind it. This curtain will separate the holy place from the most holy place. And you might say, why is there a holy place and a most holy place? Well, they would have served different purposes. Some, like the most holy place would have purely and only been, I think, for, like, trying to hear from and or communicate directly with God. There would have been an outer place for, like, different rituals and things to be performed in order to then be, like, purified and ritually ready for the most holy place, which is part of the reason there's a difference between those. Also, the whole embroidered cherubim, so part of the decoration is, like, essentially angelic figures, kind of, maybe not scattered. Scattered might not be the best word, but, like, at various places throughout the tabernacle, kind of to help signify that, okay, yeah, this is supposed to be a holy place. This is supposed to, represent, a glimpse of heaven and God and being able to see, hear from, communicate with God. And I'm guessing this footnote regarding, it says Ark of the Testimony. Testimony was kind of more so their term, or maybe a more accurate translation of the term that they used to refer to the Ark of the Covenant, or even just the covenant in general, because the testimony was also used more so to refer to what we think of as the tablets for the 10 Commandments and that, initial kind of set of laws that were set out. But anyway, okay. Let me wrap this up here and then, give some final thoughts and then maybe I can see what chat may or may not be doing. So, verse 34. Then put the ark's cover, the place of atonement, on top of the ark of the covenant inside of the most holy place. Place the table outside the inner curtain on the north side of the tabernacle, and place the lampstand across the room on the south side. Make another curtain for the entrance to the sacred tent. Make it of finely woven linen, and embroider it with exquisite designs, using blue, purple, and scarlet thread. Craft 5 posts from acacia wood, overlay them with gold, and hang the curtain from them with gold hooks. Cast 5 bronze bases for the posts. So now we've got bronze bases, which I think maybe the difference of metals in part is supposed to signify, kind of the proximity to God, as, it would have related to the tabernacle and the different meeting places and such. Because you had the Ark of the Covenant in the most holy place, and that was pretty much all that was in the most holy place. Notice they also refer to it as the place of atonement. So, there were cherubim on the covering of the Ark of the Covenant, and that was basically supposed to signify God's presence. So, with that being the case, that's why that was the most holy place, and also why that would have been separate from the rest of the tabernacle. And then there was the holy place, which contained the table and instruments, as well as the lampstand. And I get, if there was any more of the tabernacle outside of that, then that was just kind of the general entry, at least as far as I'm understanding this. But so we've got this tent that essentially has possibly three different layers within it, at least 2, but I'm thinking 3 different layers within it, for different places of meeting that all serve different functions. The most holy place was just to meet with God. Outside of that might have been sort of more, preparation, maybe offerings, things going on there. And then outside of that might have been just a more general meeting place / entryway for it. But feel free to correct me if I'm wrong on any of that. But that's just my understanding as I'm reading it, and thinking about other things in my memory that sort of relate to this. But anyway, so I guess that does it for chapter 26. It was literally all related to the tabernacle and really the outer layers of it, or really just the layering in general of it, and the support structures and how that was all supposed to be laid out. All right, so that's going to do it for this time around. More instructions regarding the tabernacle. I guess for this chapter specifically, a lot more about the coverings for it, and how those are going to be divided up into some of the different areas within the tabernacle. But anyway, so yeah, again, a lot of this is kind of setting things up for the future of, how the Israelites would worship God and commune and interact with God moving forward. But anyway, so yeah, that's all for now. As always, like and share if you enjoyed the video, subscribe and click the bell to get updates when I post new ones. Look down in the description for info on other social media pages. And of course, leave comments down below all that with any thoughts you have. So, yeah, hope you're all doing well. Hopefully I'll see you for the next chapter. But until then, stay cool, people.